I didn't come in here with a list of things that I wanted to talk about, and that was probably my first mistake. However, I wanted to get online today because it's getting easier for me to post videos, and as pressing as the messages have always been to post more content about my interpretations of or spiritual impressions about what's going on in our everyday lives. The call is still there, and the messages are keep pushing me to do it. So here I am, and to guide the conversation, I was going to use some Astrodice so that I can at least have a prompt, rhyme, or reason for whatever I might be covering today. Let's see. So I'm going to roll about 6 Astro die. I keep them in a special baggie for myself. I'm going to roll 6 of them and quickly interpret what I think the prompt is from the symbols, houses, and, well, there's only glyphs and numbers, but from the zodiac, planets, and houses given. Okay. So I have. Okay. Mm. Okay. I have the second house and Libra as a pair I recognize. The fifth house and Jupiter as a pair. Well, the fifth house and Leo are here, and 2 Jupiters. Expansion of Leo fifth house energies, and apparently expanding the relationship between the second house and Libra. Since Gemini is since Jupiter is there twice. Expanding on this notion of femininity, I've been seeing a lot of YouTube videos talking about feminization of the Black woman and, well, masculinization of the Black woman and divine feminine energy for the collective. And I've particularly been watching content that Black women make on femininity because it's definitely starting to become a theme that I'm having a little bit of. The entertainment is a good thing. The the lack of depth to which people are really going in the entertainment piece in order to get the one-on-one call or the funds, or like get more people, to probably book those other sessions with those people. I feel like it's a bit lackluster. If we're really going to have conversations about the masculine and the feminine and the maturity of these energies, then we're going to need to really start diving a bit deeper. And I'm not sure if a lot of the people who I'm seeing talking about these things are processing them on a spiritual level. And I'm concerned about that because the lack of that kind of input to the conversation makes it so that the conversation can only ring to certain people on certain levels, but I'm not sure how well it's resonating with us as a collective within our spirits. It's a topic of the conscious, but is it really changing the foundations of what we're thinking about, generationally speaking, for example? The second house is ruled by Taurus, and Taurus is ruled by Venus, but Venus also rules Libra, and Libra rules the 7th house. So by the second house and Libra being together for this topic, I think that we're going to talk about the maturity. Like, why does Venus rule Taurus and Libra? And why are those houses not opposite one another if she's going to rule both of these signs? And Taurus is the Venus energy that is less mature. So Taurus energy, first of all, let's establish that Venus is not always about sex and sensuality and sexuality. My interpretation of Venus is a bit more post-colonial. and how I see the planet as a representation in an astrology chart is by its astrophysics, and which include that Venus is the only planet in our solar system. I think it is either the only or one of the only two planets in our solar system that rotate counterclockwise and they don't have the normal rotation of the rest of the planets on its axis. And also, Venus is the hottest planet in our solar system, if my memory serves me correctly. So Venus being the hottest and also having a divergent or circulation makes me believe that this planet and its representation of like sexuality is actually us interpreting what's happening on a molecular level with the planet, and on an atomic level, if we talk about things that are hot or gases that are hot or solids, that anything that's hot, the atoms in the air, or the particles within the solid or liquid, they are agitating and they are very quickly bumping up against one another and creating collisions. And when these collisions get too strong or too fast in the solid breaks. When the collisions become too rapid in a liquid, the particles jump off and forms a gas. And when the gas is very, very hot and in the room where the temperature is very hot, those gas atoms and particles are going at it. And so really for me, Venus is about the frequency of contact and about hosting spaces or embodying a space where these collisions are able to happen in a controlled way, that are not subject to necessarily like outbursts. That's Venus. Venus ruling Taurus, I think, is giving that energy that is more so of an immature approach to the frequency of collisions in a high frequency space, or of a space where a lot of events are occurring and a lot of stimulation is happening. Taurus has an immature approach to this because it's excited by these things, and it knows itself as a single particle, also in collision and in the act of circulating and being stimulated and moved and colliding with other beings, other particles, other atoms that are subject to the same heat as it. Then though, and the bull, the representation of an animal being that an animal being the symbol for that aspect of Venus is not only tied to just the bull and its fertility, its libido, its energy, it's also just the fact that of being an animal connects to that primal notion. It roots Taurus in a root chakra space that is more primal and subject to basal interpretation, if that makes sense. Whereas Libra is represented by an inanimate object, the scale, and this is the view of Venus after maturing within that space of frequent collision and gaining presence and autonomy in its awareness of itself in order to begin to guide its own responses, or at least trajectories between collisions. Like that one moment of contact with another particle allows you to be like, even though it's affecting you and it's going to send you off in a different direction, that one, imagine you were an atom. If this is not easy for you as it is for me, please let me know. But if I was an atom, I'm not a scientist, but here's what I think happens if you slow this down. I'm a particle and I'm moving super fast, and another particle is coming at me, and that particle is going to change my direction, my trajectory. However, as soon as me and that particle meet, if I'm a sentient conscious being or a particle or atom or whatever, if I'm sentient and conscious, I can literally use that split second point of contact and decide what my next trajectory will be. So it won't just be based off of the math of the trigonometry of the collision. It will be also be based off of my decision about how hard to, and how and which direction I'm trying to jump off in. But it's only that split second that I can decide this, because once I've hit and gone, I can no longer change the trajectory. And this moment is so small, and that's why it takes so much skill. So these are with physical atoms. When we talk about energy and life experience, Libra is the representation of a sentient conscious particle moving through the universe with enough autonomy and knowledge to be able to negotiate its trajectory in those brief spaces, moments, and milliseconds, micro timings of contact with other beings, whether it be inanimate, sentient, or otherwise. And expanding our understanding of what is collision, what's hot, what's sexy, what is sexual, what is interacting with our environment on a basal level versus interacting with our environment on like a more crown chakra, third eye level. Just kind of using all of the different systems here to kind of wrap up the point that we are maturing in our notion of the divine feminine as a culture, because the English language and the American culture does not really expand on the depths to which femininity and this energy of conscious sentience and decision making goes. I'll expand on that point by like mentioning what is this other thought. Basically, I was listening to Ryan Crawford, and he was saying that this reality is subject to dimension. In one of his recent videos explaining why the energies of 2020 and 2021 were so like crazy, like if I would say I would have put it, and I have been putting it, but it's like the reality was like gelatinous or something, because there was this like screen to where I was literally feeling like my day-to-day life was changing based off of what I was saying, based off of what I was thinking, and my everything was was such an accurate reflection. Like usually we have a more like a time buffer for cycles, but because the planets were all on top of each other and in that huge stellium in Capricorn, all of the different mirrors were a lot closer together, taking a lot less time to communicate and send the light waves and messages and data. And so reality was extremely responsive. And that is tying into the piece where we talk about how karma was like catching up with everybody, or seemed like everything you did from the past was like crashing into you, or everything you were doing in the present, it seemed like you couldn't get away with anything. If you ever had that feeling, this is during this past couple of years, during the past year, really, that's the astrological reasoning why. What I've learned, and this influx of femininity, and why I think it needs to go a lot deeper, is because a feminine response, learning how to negotiate with the divine feminine and utilize it for both men and women, the mature feminine response, so like femininity in Libra mode, or the second house in a mature, in its higher vibration or higher octave, is like a master at avoiding karmic feedback. It's a master at avoiding a karmic feedback loop that is negative. Because when you really think about, my tablet just did something weird. I think I'm gonna stop and make this like a part 1 and then record a part 2.